Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the DLF Trade Show, your premier source for what you want to hear about. Because today, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, the very unprofessional senior contributor, Addison Hayes, at AmazeHayes _
Sorry.
here to give you a beautiful view of the trade value of three players that were suggested by, it was on Twitter, so I hope you're listeners and didn't just suggest people and didn't plan to watch, because that's not cool. Like, come on, right? So the first player we're going to talk about is DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf, and honestly, I've been on the train that I'm fine with DK Metcalf even with Drew Lock as quarterback.
What?
I didn't say I'd be happy about it. I said I'd be fine with it.
That's
a very big, that's not even a thin line. That's like a, that's a pretty thick line in between feeling good about it and being okay with it. Because I think the offense will be bad enough that the volume will be there. I think DK Metcalf is big enough and fast enough and long enough that he can get away without having the most accurate quarterback in the world. Was that nicely put?
Yeah, I think so.
And as a quasi Seahawks fan, I would love for them to not go and trade for Baker Mayfield, because just suck this season and go get a better draft pick, so you don't have to trade up, spend as much to trade up to get one of the top quarterbacks in this coming very good draft class for quarterbacks. But they'll be stupid and they'll trade a first for Baker Mayfield because they just love trading first away. But that's not the point.
I feel so weird about DK Metcalf just because I'm not comfortable at all with Drew Lock. Like, when he was with the Broncos, he had Sutton and at certain times Judy as well, and he still couldn't produce top 24 wide receiver weeks. They were just super rare.
Had a good season with Drew Lock at quarterback.
It was a fine-ish,
and it was his rookie season.
Right. Drew Lock would support these random wide receiver 2 weeks that were KJ Hamler had one game where he caught 2 long touchdowns. And then Deshaun Hamilton had a top 24 week that was just completely random. So I feel like it's going to come in unpredictable spikes for Metcalf that you're never going to feel confident ever starting him.
Let's go to this. Let's see what his price is nowadays, because I think this plays a lot into it, because especially if we're talking this might be his low price. So if he's your third wide receiver on your team, I think you're thrilled, right?
Sure. I think so, especially for the longevity of it from Dynasty, right?
That too.
He's 24 years old, so you're hoping that the situation is going to get better, either by him being traded or signing somewhere else, or them actually improving the situation in-house in Seattle.
Yeah. So let's get to some of the trades you found. The first one is a 12-team, 1 quarterback trade. DK Metcalf, the 206, 303, and Mike Gesicki for Mark Andrews and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, this is DK for Mark Andrews, right? Can we just forget about the rest? I mean, I get, for some reason, the 206, Mike Gesicki, and the 303 is worth way more than Valdez-Scantling. But in the analyzer, DK is 654.7 and Mark Andrews is 586.6. This trade was done under the assumption that DK is worth less than Mark Andrews.
Probably significantly.
Because a second, a third, and Mike Gesicki, who, I get it, he's not one, to me, he's not even one of those second-tier tight ends, but he's still a tight end in a 12-team league, is going to get started. He's a startable tight end in a 12-team league. So, this is why I say go get DK right now. While Mark Andrews is one of those positional advantages, if you believe last year was at least close to real. Because with an actual running back on their team, fingers crossed, J.K. Dobbins comes back healthy. Really hard to do J.K. and D.K. at the same time. That's not for my brain. They're going to pass a little less, for sure, with a real running back, the Ravens are. So does that affect Mark Andrews? Does Rashad Bateman being a different player than Marquise Brown eat into Andrews a little bit. So I don't think you can walk in and say Andrews is going to do what he did last year, because I think things are going to change a bit. But this is still saying that DK is worth pretty much less than Mark Andrews. In non-premium, they're even to each other. But of course, the more premium you add, the further away Andrews is going to get. But I think if you hit 175 or the 2 premium, you should get more for Andrews than DK, because at that point, I think it pumps his value up enough. I think the upside is with DK Metcalf, and I understand everyone's going to start screaming positional scarcity, positional advantage of having Mark Andrews. I don't think Mark Andrews is last year again. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that was his best season ever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that was going to be his best season ever, but I don't think that doesn't mean that he can't continue to replicate being the tight end 1 overall for the next handful of years. When I saw this trade, I immediately went, man, I'd rather just have Mark Andrews. But when you take everything into consideration, I think it's actually surprising that the analyzer has Metcalf ahead of Andrews, because when we talk about that, Metcalf's value has fallen since Russell Wilson got traded. ADP wise, that's not really the case. He fell from like 10th overall till he's now 19th. He dropped like half a round in ADP, but his trade value dropped pretty significantly. Yeah. So that's where there's a major difference with Metcalf. I feel like I want to take Mark Andrews here because I'm terrified of what Metcalf is going to be this year and potentially even next year if it is a rookie quarterback in Seattle. But I know that the Dynasty community is still going to see DK Metcalf and what he did, in his year 1, year 2, year 3, and say he's still just 25 years old. This is where we're at with him, and just kind of like ride the wave out. But I think it's going to be a really not fun wave that you're riding for a couple of years.
All right, 12 team super flex. DK. Oh, this is an interesting one. DK Metcalf, Travis Etienne, and a third for DeAndre Swift, Brandon Ayuk, and Mecole Hardman. So DK 491.4, ETN 309.5, the third 48.4, Swift 654.7, Ayuk 149.9, Mecole 14.1. So the totals is 849.3 to 818.7. Is there a world where you don't take the DK side?
Nope. you had to know immediately that was it, right?
Well, we've both called Swift a sell. You love ETN. I've been saying that I'm still high on DK. So yeah, this trade was put in here for us to just be like, yep, this side.
This is it right here. This is how you do it. I mean, this is a perfect example of how you trade down from an elitely valued running back.
I love the wording you just threw in there.
Elitely valued running back in DeAndre Swift. And you move him to a running back that could do the same thing production wise, just at a much cheaper cost. And then you get like almost a cornerstone dynasty asset in DK Metcalf, who's like a 2nd round pick in 1 quarterback league. So this is perfect.
Yeah, I will say Ayuk is intriguing. I could never place how I feel about him, especially with all the stuff going on with Debo, that he could return a lot of value, especially at this cost. But if he doesn't do well the beginning of the season, his value can tank because of what happens at the beginning of last season. Mm-hmm. ETN is going to have a window of forgiveness.
Right.
And that is just, and DK has a year of it. So, I mean, like now I think the better and the safer side is the DK side.
Right. Ayuk could be any number of wide receivers that are in the same. I mean, he could be Christian Kirk. He could be, any other like wide receivers in that range that, like you said, where they could be really good. Gabe Davis could be another example, of just these players that if they hit and do well, they're gaining value. If they don't do well, they're losing value because we don't really trust them anymore. They're in this weird kind of, like, I think Juju, if Juju doesn't produce with Mahomes, it's over for him, Yeah. Any number of these wide receivers in that Ayuk range you could replace with him, but I would still gladly take DK Metcalf and Travis Etienne.
All right, let's move on to our next player, hashtag Team Clemson big wide receiver, in apparently big Mike Williams, BMW.
That's a thing.
This is the third player that I didn't list before, and Addison goes, well, I have this, I have DK, I have our next guy, and I have BMW. I just BMW question mark. Yeah, apparently that's a nickname of his.
I don't like it.
I don't
It's
like
like how
either.
I didn't like AD for Adrian Peterson either. Like I just don't like it.
Oh, I said AP anyway. I know
It's
like
AP.
his mom called him all day and stuff like that because he had energy all day. But no, AP. It's nice and easy. LTAP. Just let it go. And now we don't have to talk about that anymore because Adrian Peterson's not in the league. I would love to believe he will do what he did at the beginning of last season for this season.
every of the
that would just
every
be
of the
the dream, right? Like he just becomes a wide receiver one forever for now.
I mean, sure, yeah.
I can dream. It won't become reality, but I could dream about it. But I think Mike Williams is another one of those guys. Like before, I said if you can get DK as your wide receiver 3, you feel great about it. If you can get Mike Williams as like your wide receiver 4 or 5, I think that's good because his floor seems good enough, and we've seen what his ceiling is. I will never feel like, again, hurts me to say, I wouldn't feel safe with him as probably even my wide receiver 3. Like I want Mike Williams as one of my last spots to fill. But he's also priced around there now. Like the analyzer has him a little higher than I thought they would, which kind of makes me happy that means that people out there still like him.
Oh, people out there love him, dude. The amount of times I've seen polls recently. I just saw this poll. Who would you prefer in Dynasty between Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, and Hollywood Brown? And
he had to be last.
Williams was third of the 3, but he was like not that far behind. And I'm like, why is he even in this poll?
Yeah, there's a gap there. 12-team, 1 quarterback. George Kittle and Mike Williams for Jalen Waddle and TJ Hawkinson. Way to make me pick against Mike Williams in the first one.
That was my entire goal with this, is to purposely pick trades that I knew that you would not have to pick.
And I just looked at the next one and you completely succeeded. All right, so George Kittle and Mike Williams. George Kittle, 348.1. Mike Williams, 233.8 for a total of 582. Jalen Waddle is 625.9 on his own. And TJ Hawkinson, 264.7, total 890.6. This is a first-round pick off, like almost. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. If you have a player in your league who is for some reason this scared of Jalen Waddle, go do this. Neither Kittle or Williams has the upside of Jalen Waddle. I think we are past the point of Kittle tight end 1, 2, or 3 anymore. I don't see it happening anymore, especially with whatever, like the offense is going to have to change, assuming Trey Lance does start. And if Debo, I don't know, whatever Debo does, if they do continue to use Ayuk the way they did at the end of the season, and if Kittle can't stay healthy, which he has never been able to do his entire career, that spells a lot of for George Kittle. And don't ask me how to actually spell that. And then Mike Williams, I already explained what I feel about him. TJ Hawkinson, I'm not as happy as I was before last season. Like last season, I was like, this is it. Kittle's going to work his way into that top tier. And he did not. I still think the potential is there. I'm just a lot less hopeful he hits it. Mm-hmm. But again, I would take Jalen Waddle over Kittle and Mike Williams. So, I mean, give me free TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where I was as well. I would take Waddle over the Kittle and Mike Williams side entirely. My only problem, just to touch on TJ Hawkinson, because he was another player that Twitter kind of mentioned as a player to kind of highlight.
Okay.
My only problem with Hawkinson is that he is the first of the next tier.
Yes.
You know, like I don't really see much difference in a lot of those players in that tier. And it's just the fact that he's like the first one means that he's overvalued. A little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes. Because usually you'll say I'll trade back because if they're all on a tier, I don't need the first guy.
Right. Like I made a whole video saying I would love to trade back from Hawkinson to Dalton Schultz plus. You know,
yeah. I'm there for that move for sure. I mean, I don't watch your videos or anything, so I couldn't, didn't have that argument ready for me.
Dude, Mike Williams. So I kind of cherry pick these a little bit because I did purposely want to make pick trades that I knew that you would have to go against your guy Mike Williams.
I both
But, like,
appreciate and hate you for that.
but like there are a lot of other trades just in the past couple of weeks in the trade analyzer that are just like disgusting for Mike Williams. Like, are you taking a 23 first over Mike Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah, easily. What about 24 first?
I might hold on to Williams at that point, but
Okay.
probably I should. But again, hashtag I would probably hold on to him at that point. But
Let's
the
move
smart
back.
move would be to take the first.
Yeah, let's move back to DK. Mike Williams and Freiermuth for DK Metcalf.
DK. Freiermuth, again, is like the next person after Hawkinson, and I'm just fine skipping down to Schultz plus.
This one's kind of bad. It's Hopkins in a third for Mike Williams, so we're there. But Mike Williams in a second for
Both
ETN.
sides, baby. Hashtag Team Clemson, big wide receiver. Sorry, I was just starstruck. What was that last one?
I love it. Mike Williams in a second for ETN. You know where I'm at, so.
Wow. I think that's fair, and I might be with you. No, okay, I'll take Mike Williams in the second, and here's why. Because if you're taking ETN, you're hoping for the next year or two window because he's a running back. You can't trust them for too much longer than their third year in the league, which ETN is technically in the league for a year, even though he didn't play at all. Mike Williams will score you points, but the fact that you're pivoting to a 27, 28-year-old, I think is mitigated by getting that second. And in this draft class where, assuming we're talking super flex, by the way, I don't remember if you said what it was. If it is super flex, there's a chance you get not far off from ETN if it's an early second. Just because, again, there's a chance of 4 or 5 quarterbacks being in the first round.
Yeah, possibly. That early second is going to be whichever running back gets drafted in the late third round to a really good team.
Yeah. And as opposed to, sorry, but the overdrafted ETN. Like, he got drafted a little too early. Sorry. But he fell into a decent situation because of the quarterback and everything. But yeah, I think I stick with what I said. I think I take the Mike Williams in the second and hope that Mike Williams has a good year and ETN starts off slow so I could just trade for him later and just have all of it.
Yeah. I just think Mike Williams is such a sell right now. Like, the Twitter seems to think he is. ADP, he's wide receiver 33 from June ADP, which is lower than I expected, but it seems like his trade value is a little bit higher because
let's look at this next crazy one.
This next one is insane. Go ahead and read it.
This is 2 overvalues. AJ Dillon and Mike Williams they're pretty much the same value, 242 and 233.8 for a total of 475.8 for DJ Moore, a 23 first and 23 second. DJ Moore, 549.9. The first is 384.2, and a second is 134.3 for a total of 1,068.5. That is more than double the value because we do have our favorite little pop-up of caution. Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. This is super easily the DJ Moore side because DJ Moore, I'm finally on the house in the, no, that's not the right word. I'm on the train in the wagon, whatever metaphor, idiom you want to use, that DJ Moore has lost his ceiling. But give me a 2-3 year younger, solid wide receiver too, where if he learns how to score a touchdown, could be even more solid. And a 23 first. I like AJ Dillon. That was worded poorly. I like AJ Dillon's situation because they're probably going to run the ball a lot in Green Bay this year. So I think AJ Dillon has the chance to score a lot of points. I'm not the biggest fan of the player himself, which is why I would jump on this because you're getting someone so much better with a 23 first.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so easy, the DJ Moore side. Would you
got the first? Would you do DJ Moore in a second or AJ Dillon and Mike Williams?
Yeah, I was actually about to literally ask you that. I would take, if you take out the first and it's just DJ Moore in the second, I would still take DJ Moore. You take out DJ Moore and it's just the first and second, I would still do the first and second.
I would take Dillon and, oh man, I can't say that out loud. I was saying it and it just stopped. Like, the air had left my lungs and not let me finish that statement. Wow. Oh no. Don't make me say that. I'm going to forget you said that out loud. if we take away the first and it's DJ Moore in the second, I think I might stay with Dylan and Mike Williams. Actually, I would probably just stick with whichever side I hadn't hit the reject button.
One of those trades.
Yeah. Because I think, let's pretend I wanted to score points, because like neither of these are really rebuilding moves, even though again DJ Moore is still pretty young and you're getting a pick. And again, we're talking as if the first isn't there. Smash with the first. I don't know if I could flip that second for someone I feel will outscore these two easily. So I might as well just take the guys I have if I have them.
What if I told you it was, we're going way too far down this rabbit hole. You flip that second for like James Conner.
I feel safer with Dylan over Conner, and I don't feel the move would be necessary to fill that gap between Moore and Mike Williams. So I would still just stick with the Dylan Williams side. But again, I wouldn't hit accept even if I had Moore in the second and someone offered me those two guys. Like I don't feel strongly about either of that. But again, throw that first in there and I'll take it all day.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our third player, which is David Montgomery. And this is a guy I enjoy talking about because he's one of those guys that, you know, dynasty value never really caught up to his production because he wasn't the most loved player coming in. He didn't have the greatest rookie year, but then he came on crazy strong towards the end of his second year, right? 19. Yeah, he did good in 20. He did really well at the end of 20 and a good 21. So he, I think, built his way up a little bit, but what's his future? What's his this year with a new offense? No, hold on. With a new front office, new coach, new offensive coordinator, minus Allen Robinson, who, yeah, he didn't do anything last year.
Allen Robinson wasn't on the team last year either.
But they did nothing to replace that, and they have a very bad offensive line. So we don't have the coaching staff that, no matter what, David Montgomery had 20-something touches a game. So we don't know that's still happening. But he has shown that he can do it and that he could do pretty well with it. And I think Fields being the quarterback is a better situation for the Chicago running back than whatever the heck they were putting out before him. Because I think he's a better quarterback and he's mobile. You know, even if you're not calling him a running quarterback, he can move around the pocket more, which still, the second he runs bootleg, you turn that into an option and Montgomery has a hole to run through. You know, mobile quarterbacks are good for running backs. Alfred Morris. Like, I love that it's like at this point 10 years ago, and we still just go Alfred Morris.
Alfred Morris.
Yep. Yep. But let's talk about this value. This will really, really help. 12 team with one core. Ooh, it's funny. Like, I should probably read these and then react, but I can't help it. A 23 first and David Montgomery for Najee Harris. The first is 384.2. David Montgomery 373.4 for a total of 757.6. Najee by himself 815.7. This is pretty easily Najee for me, even though I do like the idea of downgrading from Najee. And it's not even like throw a second in. I wouldn't feel good going from Najee to David Montgomery. Like, I would need one piece worth more than this first. Or if it was from a really crappy team, which I felt comfortable will be a top 3 pick.
Right. Yeah, this one, I'm all for trading down from running backs. I feel like I've made that very clear on this show.
We both absolutely have, yes.
This one, I was really interested to get your opinion on this because it's Najee for a running back plus a 23 for like a starting running back that we feel comfortable with. You know, we feel all right about him. The problem is that we don't know his future. We don't know the longevity of David Montgomery. I want to feel confident in saying that he was going to be on the Bears. Like, he'll get like a 3-year, like 35 mil.
I was going to say like 6 to 8 a year, like 80 a year, maybe.
Like whatever James Conner just got. That I think can kind of be what he gets in Chicago, because I don't think he's done anything for them to say he shouldn't be on the team. He shouldn't get a second contract. I just don't know if they're going to think that he's worth it, because they can just draft somebody again. But
it's going to come down to what he wants from them.
Right.
All right, I'm pulling up ADP real quick just to see. Montgomery is running back 19.
Mhm.
Okay, if it were ETN instead.
Oh,
ETN in first.
don't go to my heart like that.
I
Yeah,
had to right away.
it's ETN in a first for sure.
Honestly, that
He's
would be
probably the
exciting.
only running back in that range, though, that I would say that about.
It was exciting enough for me to like throw that out there, and honestly, I think that's exciting enough for me to take it. Dobbins, running back 16.
Oh, I feel like the answer is yes, but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, same. Here's one I think I do without thinking about it. Derrick Henry in a first.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Kenneth Walker.
No.
I'm still going up, by the way. Like we're going higher in ADP.
Walker's ahead of Henry.
14 and 15. Yeah,
man.
Cam Akers.
Yeah. I'm gonna trust in the volume that Akers is gonna get.
I don't know if I'm there yet, but it's close. I mean, and now we hit the Kamara, Cook, Chubb, Mixon.
Yeah, those are easy,
and that's too far.
And if you go a little bit lower, I mean, I'm assuming you're not doing it just to check, like Elijah Mitchell, Antonio Gibson. Are you doing any? Josh Jacobs? These guys are all for sure. No.
That's too low for production. Zeke is so low down, but like value-wise, I know I would need to get more. But I firmly believe
like if you had a team that had Zeke and David Montgomery, you could add Zeke to this trade, and I feel like they wouldn't really say no. Like if it was Zeke, Monty, and a first, you get 2 starting running backs.
Sell Najee for that,
and the first. I feel like
I'll throw a second in to get that done.
Yeah, that's where I feel like if you did that with like it's David Montgomery, a first, and Zeke, and Fournette, and Connor, and Elijah Mitchell. Like I love Mitchell, but yeah you do. Like I love this.
Okay, this one's interesting to me. David Montgomery in a 12-team Superflex league. David Montgomery for Brandon Cooks and a 23-second. Speaking of guys whose dynasty value just never cared about his production. Montgomery 239.4. A second is 134.3, and Cooks 119.8. I don't like paying for running backs. That is not a secret of my play style. I would trade this for David Montgomery. Because knowing that Cooks will never return value and knowing that he's a 28-year-old wide receiver in a team that is going to very soon flip a switch and he
only 28.
He came into the league
I feel like he's been undervalued for like 10 years.
He came into the league at like 19. I think he was 21, but yeah, he came into the league very, very young. Like I remember when he was in the league for 2 years, he was still younger than most of the people in the incoming draft class. I remember talking about
he's like a year and a half older than Terry McLaurin.
I mean, he's only a year older than Terry McLaurin's child. I would trade this for David Montgomery. Brandon Cooks is very solid. He is great for your team. He is great as that Mike Williams style wide receiver that I was talking about before. You feel good if he's like your wide receiver 4 or 5. I'd feel good with Montgomery as my only running back. Again, that's the way I play because I don't necessarily stack high or get high-end running backs. So to me, this is a no-brainer. This is pretty much a second and my last flex spot for my starting running back.
Yeah. Montgomery to me is like, I'm not paying a first for him, but a couple seconds, Yeah. That's where I'm at. And I think this is exactly where it is. This is a couple seconds because Cooks is almost exactly worth a 23 seconds. So this is perfect to me. I don't feel bad about, Brandon Cooks. Everybody talks about how he's like perennially like a top 24 guy. Will probably be top 24 again this year, so you're giving that up. But in Dynasty, his value is just always going to go down because he's not sexy enough and he doesn't do enough. And he's just good.
Like, let's say these two players play to their average, where David Montgomery, 6 games into the season, is like running back 10 to 12. And Brandon Cooks is wide receiver 18-ish.
Yeah.
You will get way more in a trade for David Montgomery than you will Brandon Cooks, even though they're playing exactly like they're supposed to.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's another reason I just take Montgomery.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the nation's new favorite segment, in Russ's Inbox, where this is a trade I sent out. And I really honestly put this in here because I need to know how I should feel about it and if I should revoke it or not. Because this is a trade I absolutely sent out of boredom, and I need to stop swaying around because it's really messing with the focus on my camera. But I cannot sit still. It's just not how my brain goes or body goes. So in a Trade Addicts League, which is again 12-team Superflex, PPR, tight end premium, which we've discussed before, is 1.75. I sent out Jalen Waddle for Michael Pittman and Rashad Bateman. Now, in the analyzer, Waddle is 495.7, Pittman 266.8, Bateman 256.3, total 523.0, which goes along with everything we've always said. 2 for 1, the 2 should be worth a little more. I don't even feel like I'm asking for this. Is 30 points in the analyzer. That's like nothing. I love Waddle. I want to point this out there. This isn't me being afraid of Waddle. This is me doing everything I said you shouldn't do and looking at my lineup and realizing I have no depth on this team. And I do believe in Pittman. I do like Bateman. So to me, this felt like a great move where the ceiling of Pittman isn't that far off from the median of Waddle, if that makes sense. Like Waddle's ceiling is well above the ceiling of Pittman. But if they were the same, I wouldn't be trying to get Bateman on top. Like that's not nothing. So if Waddle has a decent season and Pittman has a very good season, I think they'll be very close. And then give me a good season from Bateman on top, and I feel like that is great for your team.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I feel about this value-wise, or if it's even a smart move to do. Tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this one too, just because I kind of have the same feelings that you do. Like I really like Jalen Waddle. And usually when it comes to wide receivers, I don't like to have a whole lot of depth because I like to reserve those roster spots for a whole lot of depth at running back, right?
Yeah.
So I usually like to do more 2-for-1s at the wide receiver position to upgrade to get better wide receivers, and then just kind of fill out the back end with guys that you can get for super cheap or even off the waiver wire in season.
Yeah.
So this is a trade that I would generally like to send the Bateman side for Jalen Waddle.
And wait, real quick, just to throw it in there, the reason I hope this does get accepted is because this guy does have very good depth on his team. So throwing those two, what very could be just mid wide receiver twos, and getting, I mean, Jalen Waddle surprisingly is only at 27.75 in ADP, but he's without a question a top 10 wide receiver. So being able to bolster these two, I think they're wide receiver like 18 and 20 something. I don't have it pulled up. Hold on.
You're in the range.
Yeah. But now that I said it out loud, I need to actually go. Pittman is 16 and Bateman is 19. So that's a little higher than I thought it would be. Waddle is, oh, wow, 11. That feels low. Wow, Devontae Adams is still up at 6. Okay. ADP makes it look not as good as the analyzer does. But to me, if I have a team where I have a bunch of wide receiver twos, I'd love this move to be able to say, I don't have to think about who to start anymore. I have Waddle, who I think has top 3 to 5 wide receiver upside production-wise. Yeah. And if he does that production-wise, he's going to, I mean, regardless, after next season, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp are both dropping out of the top 10 because of age. Don't yell at me. I'm recording. So to me, I hate trading away players I like, and I feel like I need to like justify why I'm sending away my baby. Like, you know, the heaven forbid I ever trade away T. Higgins. Everyone's just like, what did you do? What's wrong? Do we not know something? Like, no, this is just me being bored and doing what I do. But I think I like this trade. And what's weird is this is good for both of our teams. I usually send bad offers that only help me out because why not? I'm lying. That's not what I do sometimes. But like, I think this is a very good trade for both of our teams. I hope it gets accepted. I'm really curious to see what he comes back with, and I will clearly save it for next week. And hopefully, you know, he answers and doesn't let it just sit there for a week and make me want to cry. I'll probably just DM him later today because now that I'm talking about it, I can't not have an answer.
Hopefully he accepts it, but he doesn't feel as good about it because those are the two trades, right? That are the two types of perfect trades where both
Everyone
people leave
feels good.
happy,
No
and
one feels
both
good.
people hate the trade that they made, but they still did the trade anyway. Those are the best ones.
So throw it in the comments how you feel about this, or if you think I'm just making a terrible decision, which I would not put it past me to make terrible decisions. All right, well, that's the end of all of this. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Ad House, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes _. This has been the DLF Trade Show. Let us know how you feel about everything we talked about. Let us know if there's more players you want us to talk about. Just let us know you're here. Let us know you're listening. Let us know you are in our world, because we care. We care. Catch you next time.